Good morning, my friends, and welcome to this episode of Happiness After Codependency. I'm Marshall Bircher, and I'm your guide back to trusting yourself and ultimately coming to know, love, and live who you are. So today is episode number 2 of How to Trust Yourself. Today we're going to be talking about one of the principles of self-trust. The first one is called innate legitimacy. So we're going to be exploring that. But before we get to that, it's time to share this out with the community. The community is your safe haven where you can find tools, you can find guidance and support in your journey back to knowing, loving, and living who you are. The link to join the community is above on Facebook and below on YouTube. And if you're watching via YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Also, the rules for the community are linked above on Facebook and below on YouTube. The reason I put them there is so that you can have an informed consent about what is expected of you when you join the community. Because we have some very specific rules and structures around communication, around what topics are allowed or not, and how to support each other and yourself in your journey. This allows us to have a safe, secure container because ultimately we're all dealing with trauma and we need structure and clarity about how to interact with each other so that we can assist each other in healing that trauma, as well as building boundaries, learning how to disengage, and how to properly engage in assisting each other. So that link again is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. I am going to now share it out. Let me know how you're doing in the comments, guys. I know holidays can be rough. That is okay if that's indeed what's going on because, well, holidays are rough. And that actually speaks to today's topic of innate legitimacy. So let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So innate legitimacy, what am I actually talking about? So in codependency, we are conditioned to seek validity through other people. This is why approval has so much power, and this is why rejection and criticism or difference can feel really devastating, is because someone else is defining what is real and valid for us. So if I'm the codependent and I want to know if I'm a lovable person or a worthy person, and I go out to the world and I'm looking around and person A says, "Hey, Marshall, you're a lovable, worthy person," and I'm lovable and worthy. They've established that legitimacy for me. But then they're like, "Man, you did this and you're a terrible person." Now they've taken that legitimacy away and made something else legitimate. My awfulness in this instance. That's really critical to understand because this is how we get controlled and manipulated and influenced by others, and that's how we ultimately lose our sense of self, our own, what I call personal sovereignty. We are unable to acknowledge what we feel and believe that it's valid, acknowledge our experiences and believe that it's legitimate, unable to acknowledge our needs and feel their own value and importance. We're unable to access who we are and then share and express who we are without insecurity, guilt, lack of confidence, because we're seeking validity through approval. We're seeking someone else to make us real and okay to ourselves and to them. The reason we do this is because it helps the brain ensure that we're going to have a secure attachment and some safety in our sense of connection, identity with this person. So that's the fawn response showing up in one's behavior. And this is why the first principle of self-trust is respecting your innate legitimacy. So what is innate legitimacy? And innate legitimacy is that whatever you've experienced, whatever you perceive, whatever you feel or sense, whatever shows up in your awareness, in your body, your thoughts, your feelings, are innately, intrinsically real and valid. They may not necessarily make sense to the context in which they're showing up in, but they have a rational reason and premise for being present in your world right now. So put this into an example. I'm walking down the street and I see a person ahead of me and they look really angry, and I start to get really anxious and scared. And I don't know the person. I don't know if they're actually angry. It appears like they are. Okay. And I'm having this big, intense anxiety. I've got to run. Well, that response is legitimate. It has validity and realness. Now, it may not make sense to that context. Although that person is angry, they're not necessarily angry at me, maybe, if they're angry at all. Maybe they're just a person with the resting angry face, But my body's reaction is telling me something, and that's coming from the past. Because in the past, maybe, in this hypothetical situation, I had experienced someone being angry with me walking down, or just being angry with me like that. They looked like that, and it turned out they were very angry with me, and it got very intense. Maybe there was some abuse involved or something. And the nervous system's like, in this present day experience, going, hey, warning, watch out for that. That's what it means. That's what I mean when I say legitimacy or rational premise. It's the body's reaction, its response to what it's experiencing comes from something that it has experienced and encountered in the past. The reason this is the first principle of self-trust is it starts orienting us back to ourselves. Self-trust, this is not trust in other people. This is trust in our own validity and realness. When we access our own legitimacy, then we stop questioning what is real. We stop trying to seek validation outside ourselves through other sources, and we start giving ourselves that validation and standing with ourselves despite what another person, place, or thing might suggest. In other words, I get to feel what I feel and care for it in a responsible manner without having to seek someone else's permission to be that way, and without having to blame anybody else for what I feel. So like in my hypothetical example, I'm feeling this big intense anxiety, this person walking down the street towards me because they feel a certain thing, or I perceive they're feeling that based on their facial expression. I can care for that response now. I can care for it because I'm not questioning if it's valid or real or I should be feeling this. Instead, I'm feeling this, so what do I need now? What do I need now? Well, maybe right now I need to step back and look at the context. Okay, I'm having this experience. I'm aware of it. What's the relevancy of these feelings and sensations to the actual thing going on right now? Oh, okay, well, I don't know this person. Oh, look, they just have that face. Cool. I'm safe. I can walk down this street, or I can go that way, or I can just ignore it. They've not done anything directly to me. Okay. See, I can help connect myself back to relevancy, and that can help the nervous system register like, ooh, we are actually okay. I can just care for the anxiety. I'm like, okay, time to apply some nervous system care by first assessing my situation and context, get my orientation, and I can bring in maybe a little touch regulation, a little heart shelter, a big brief acknowledgement. Hey, that's what I'm feeling, and it's okay to feel it. I get to be aligned with myself. So I'm no longer in my way of questioning what I feel and if I should feel it or why. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm moving towards nervous system care, towards general person care. Like, I got my back. I am here with me. We're okay. We'll get through this. I have found that this approach, especially with it rooted in the trust of in the legitimacy of what I'm experiencing, brings that anxiety way down. It brings down the tension because it's like, okay, I'm okay to feel this way because I'm not crazy. I'm not delusional. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not breaking a rule by feeling this stuff. I'm acknowledging my lived experience. This is critical to your healing, to your well-being, and to your freedom from codependency and your life beyond trauma and codependency. It starts with restoring that sense of innate legitimacy. The fact that whatever we perceive, feel, experience is intrinsically real and valid and has a rational premise for being there. We bring this home and we start integrating it into our lived experience. This is where we find peace, real peace, because our mind's not questioning ourselves anymore. We're not being twisted in different ways from our own overanalysis. Instead, we're like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. Then I can, as the adult self, assess the context again and determine whether or not what I need to do to care for this response. I'll restate that. Once I acknowledge that it's real, I can assess what I need to do to care for it by looking at first the context and then going from there. Because contextual relevancy is critical to us making effective choices about it. Because sometimes we have a trigger. We get activated in something, and it's not even relevant to the actual situation at hand. How we care for us in that situation is slightly different than how we would care for ourselves in a situation that's actually a threat or a danger, something we need to do about, something we need to take differently, take seriously in a different way. So if I'm having a trigger experience, that's like, oh, I can take some space and time to care for this without having to go into this situation and get something else to change. But if I'm in an actual situation, then I need to assess what that is and what needs to be changed in it, whether it's me leaving the situation, whether it's us changing some boundaries in a relationship, whether it's addressing a conflict a certain way, stuff like that. So there's definitely nuance to that end of this, but it all starts off with the innate legitimacy of whatever you're perceiving, experiencing, feeling, needing, wanting, and desiring. Innate legitimacy also builds into our fulfillment, into our happiness. A lot of times in codependency, we are trying to please someone else. We are trying to conform to an expectation or desire someone else has. And this gets us in a little trouble because we're over in their yard, plopping around, doop-a-doop-a-doop. And we get lost in their yard. We get lost in what they want. We get lost in what they don't want. We conform or shapeshift ourselves according to those wants because we want them to love us or like us or enjoy us or choose us, those kinds of things. And that gets us ultimately lost from who we are. When we come back to ourselves, we come back to this self-trust principle of innate legitimacy, we start to see our value as legitimate, and from that our wants and our desires as legitimate and as valuable and interesting and important both to ourselves and others. We start to become more us and less them. This gives us contact back with our personal power, the ability to affect our lives through the choices and actions we take, which connect us to the next component of self-trust, which we'll talk about in the next video, which is about aligned action or integrity in our behaviors. And this activation of our legitimacy brings us back to our real wants, our real desires. This is where we really start to know ourselves. This is where we can start to really access and feel love, a real love, a warmth, a joy about being ourselves. And we can then start taking action, making choices to help us live that out. It starts with this premise of legitimacy. Without legitimacy, nothing really functions well, because underneath all the healing work we're doing, underneath all the growth we've made, is a question. Is this all valid? Is this all real? Is this right? Is this good? These are the questions I get repeatedly from students, from clients, from members. I've asked them probably a few million times myself. Is my desire for this thing right? Am I a bad person because I want this? Am I a bad person because I felt that thing about what that person said or did? We're constantly analyzing, critiquing, and policing ourselves rather than going, this has a legitimate premise, and I want to understand it so I can care for myself. Because sometimes maybe that feeling about the thing we had about person A's behavior is an important signal of like, I don't like that kind of behavior. That isn't acceptable to me. I don't want that in my life. So now we can choose for ourselves better. But if we're coming from the codependency things, I shouldn't feel that way. They need love. I should be a nicer person. No. That's bypassing our own legitimacy. That is distrusting ourself. Rather than going, there's an awareness here that's trying to get my attention and teach me something. My friends, that's the power of coming back to self-trust and starting to cultivate it. Because it brings us back into connection with our wisdom, our power, and our guidance. We immediately are moving outside the world of codependent people-pleasing, fawning, avoiding conflict, trying to control things, and more connected with really living our life on our terms in a way that supports and promotes our well-being and our happiness. That's the power of legitimacy, and that's why we start here. Now, if you're ready to take this deep, you're ready to take back your self-trust and learn to feel that self-trust and experience this for yourself, I invite you to get the Restoring Self-Trust Guide. Links above on Facebook, below on YouTube, and if you're listening via podcast, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, you can go to my website at www.freetheself.com and join. Get it there. It's right on the front page. Boom. And I also invite you to join the upcoming 5-day Freedom from Codependency Challenge, because we're going to be diving into warming your self-trust, befriending your lived experience and your emotions, and then helping you take back or reclaim your innate value while restoring emotional safety through nervous system care. So we're going to be doing over a course of 5 days. It starts January 10th. It's free. Unless you want the recorded version and the MP3s of the class, then you can purchase that, but you can attend live. It's taught twice on each day. So it starts Monday the 10th, and class 1 is taught 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Same on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays of that week. Come experience this for yourself. So it's not just a concept. It's something I want you to start experiencing, that, wow, this is my legitimacy. This is what it's like to be on my own side. Because then you can ignite your healing. Take it to a place that you've been seeking and desiring to experience for a long time. Because we're putting in the fundamental piece that's often missing in our work, is actually trusting in our own legitimacy of our emotions, our lived experience, our perceptions, our needs, our wants, our very being. So the links are above on Facebook, below on YouTube, on my front page at freetheself.com. We all know that's www these days, right? I'm really dating myself because it's the 90s terms. So, my friends, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to have an impact and influence on your world. Thank you for your feedback and support in this work, because talking about self-trust, to do things that are daring and risky, things that create exposure, things that put ourselves out there, we have to believe in the legitimacy of what we're doing. We have to believe in, and we have to trust in the legitimacy of our value, of what we bring to the table. So it's always an act, my friends, of self-trust to get out there, to reveal ourselves, and to be seen. That's my goal for you, is to experience you for you, so that you can go out and do the things in your life that matter to you, have the experiences that you desire, that really speak to your heart, that come up from within you. That's the real beauty of living beyond codependencies. We get to do things that matter to us and experience the joy and fulfillment that comes from that. And that starts by reconnecting with your self-trust, your personal legitimacy as a human being. So there you go. Go gently. I'm moving into holiday break, so there'll only be a couple more videos until 2022. That's where we'll really get into gear with all of this fun, especially in getting deep on self-trust. So expect it to be a little slow for the next couple weeks, but other than that, go gently with yourselves, and I will see you guys in our next training video. Bye-bye.